Now, to the big story political beat. Less than 3 weeks away now till you decide 2006. Democrats need 15 seats to control the House and only 6 to control the Senate. Republicans are in jeopardy in several states, so the RNC has launched a new ad drive, to influence the voters of one of the states in the GOP. One of the states that is in GOP jeopardy is, of course, the fine state of Tennessee. With me now, the man who wants to take that seat, Democrat Senate candidate Harold Ford Jr., currently, of course, a congressman there. Congressman Ford, thanks very much. So the big news.
Glad to be on.
It's nice to see you again. The big news early in the week was that the Republican Ken Mehlman and his strategists have decided to concentrate on Tennessee, Virginia, and Missouri, and that they're pouring their resources in there to help your opponent to make sure you don't get that seat. See any sign of this?
Well, they have certainly put an incredible amount of money into the state. Even some of the 527 groups, the Swift Boat veterans, are now in the state. They started yesterday with an awful, negative, scathing ad, untrue ad against me, a personal attack on me. But before we go, I do hope that DHS and others take those threats very seriously. We are home, as you know, this weekend to the UT-Alabama game, and I hope that whatever assurances that can be given to fans and citizens all across this state, that I'm sure the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security and Administration, are working diligently on it, and I hope they will provide members of Congress with some briefing on it if need be. But we are encouraged here in Tennessee in this race for one reason. I think a lot of people across this state are hungry for just a better way of doing things, be it the war, immigration, and even the economy. The irony is, as the market closed at such a high level today, and has over the last few days, even going above 12,000, there are many Americans who are not experiencing that growth. And there are those who believe we can do this better. I have not taken to bashing President Bush or criticizing personally Republicans. We've laid out a very positive, constructive message. And ironically, Mr. Mehlman, who was just here a few days ago, they have been so negative and so harsh and so vicious in their attacks on me and my family that I think it has turned a lot of people against them and turned more and more people to us, which has been, as you can imagine, very favorable and helpful.
Let's talk about immigration. There's a story moving today about, you know, some Democrats send a more conservative immigration message, and they talk about you, that you have immigration ideas and policies that are a little more conservative than a lot of Democrats. Is that true?
Well, I voted for as you know, the Sensenbrenner bill, which was the strongest anti-illegal immigration bill, calling for strong border patrol, even a fence around the country, and for stronger and stiffer sanctions against businesses who employ or hire illegals. One of the big differences in the race here, Mr. Gibson, is that my opponent actually hired illegals when he was in the private sector and had his site raided. I was visited twice and warned by the INS, and his site was raided by the INS, and he has tried his hardest to dodge responsibility for it, but the documents just don't lie.
Are you saying he knowingly hired illegals?
I'm saying that his property was raided after 2 visits by the INS. He claims that he had a subcontractor that hired them, but the law was pretty clear that the general contractor would be held responsible, which is what my opponent was. But the question we have from my opponent is that if his interpretation of the law was accurate, that indeed he was not responsible, but the subcontractor was, the question we have for him is, why didn't he fire the subcontractor at least after the first visit, or maybe after the second visit? It took a 3rd visit. So I think these factors have distinguished he and I. I've never hired an illegal to work for me.
Mr. Ford, before I run out of time, today Denny Hastert said the 12,000 mark that the Dow hit wouldn't have been possible if Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. That is, if the Democrats were in charge, wouldn't have happened.
Well, I think those are scare tactics, and we're getting closer to the end here, and those are just outrageously asinine comments. I know that Speaker Hastert has a great deal of pressure as they deal with the Foley scandal, and a great deal of pressure in trying to hold seats in the House. But to make irresponsible comments like that, I would remind everybody watching that the last time the budget was balanced, the last time we eliminated an entitlement program known as welfare, and the last time we actually had a surplus, there was a Democrat as president. And the last time that we created 23 million jobs in an 8-year span, a Democrat was president. So I wouldn't dare say that Republicans couldn't do this. And I think it's equally irresponsible for the Speaker to say that Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker, couldn't achieve this. Those are just scare tactics right at the
Congressman Harold Ford, who is the Democratic candidate for Senate in Tennessee. Congressman, thanks very much.